soft spot for that. Dracula is Dracula, and so it's very good. Creature from the Black Lagoon, best creature design by far. The costuming and the makeup, the people that worked on this movie can hang their hats on that forever. The Gill Man, the creature, just looks fantastic. And the filmmaking of this, probably the hardest undertaking of any of those, because it's a lot of really beautifully shot underwater swimming scenes where the guy in the suit had to be a really professional swimmer, and he was, to make it look good, and they do it.
And this is, again, like 1950s, 1954, to be children of the 90s and in school and still seeing this imagery and this suit, whether it be like Halloween things or on like party favors or coloring books or commercials or spoofs, whatever, is wild that it held on that long. It still does. I mean, they're remaking it. James Wan, I think, has the remake under his.
I mean, it's going to be one of the. It's okay. I only do this for a living.
There we go. We're good. I plugged in my headphones. I'm like, I can't hear anything. Oh, external headphones. Wonderful. Wonderful.
All right. We good to go.
We're good to go. We are here. We're live. We're talking horror. Let me tell you this first.
Please.
These podcasts always inspire me when I talk about it with my wife to watch something spookier, a little more scary. Which we tiptoe because she also really doesn't like them. So we watched The Village last week, which I haven't seen since late 2000s.
And had she ever seen?
No.
Okay.
So she didn't know what was happening, and it was fun to hear her questions throughout and be like, oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't get what was going on. Okay. And also, what a stacked cast. I didn't recognize, I didn't remember everyone else, like Brendan Gleeson and Jesse Eisenberg, and of course, Joaquin Phoenix and Bryce Dallas, and Adrian Brody went full Simple Jack. I totally forgot about that.
Yes. So I watched The Village in a Halloween marathon probably like 4, 5, 6 years ago, that range. And I watched it with someone who had never seen it before. I, of course, had It's Shyamalan, the twist is coming. And I think I wrote in my article whenever I talked about The Village was that I think The Village is when Shyamalan started to get high on his own supply, where if you know that the twist is coming, it's agonizing, like for 15, 20 minutes as we approach getting out of the village.
Yeah.
That he's building this tension that just does not survive a rewatch, where it's just, okay, get to the twist, get to it, my man.
Yeah. And especially this time, like knowing, okay, I remembered certain things because, again, I haven't seen it since 2009. But I was like, I know this is false and this is being misled. But then when it really gets there, I'm like, oh, this has no stakes because I know exactly what's happening.
Right.
And even how it was shot, the bad slow-mo. When you shoot at 24 frames a second and then you do slow-mo rather than 30 or 60 and slow it down, it looks atrocious.
Yeah.
And we were doing that for way too long in Hollywood. We hadn't figured it out. So it's hard to watch where you're like, oh, no.
But then also, so they try to do the time period accurate vernacular a little bit, but after having seen, so again, I watched it forever ago, but then I'd seen The Witch, and then I watched this again, and it's kind of painful to see them do these bad old-timey accents when I've seen the Vivitch actually do this and put you in a time and a place, and even the language of the camera just making it feel more that time, even though we didn't have cameras, like whatever. Just Vivitch was just better at doing that, and then. Yeah, Village. You can give away the spoiler. This is podcasting.
Well, here's the best part. Watching it, I was like, oh, I wonder how many, I won't give him a political party. I wonder how many influencers and people who are all about this trad wife farm culture watched this and was like, they're onto something. M. Night's story, he might have got it right. Because we're watching it and my wife was like, isn't this just like that Mormon influencer Ballerina Farms, whose husband's dad is like the head of JetBlue, and she has a whole entire channel devoted to her and her husband and a gaggle of kids with all this stuff, cows, chickens, whatever. Oh, we got to get up early in the morning. Where I'm like, first off, your videos don't show the help you have because I know you're paying for someone. And second off, you have so much money. you're too big to fail. Nothing can go wrong, truly.
Yeah, it's 2025. The only people that have farms are the people that survived losing their family farms in the early 2000s when only big corporations were doing it. So if you're starting a farm now, you have more cash than brains.
Yeah. So watching this, I was like, oh, that is kind of these professors. Like they were
But
only
they did
able to
have the
do
cash.
it
They like had the land and whatever. And
to make it a
so
nature preserve. Yeah.
yeah, you plop it there and then you brainwash the heck out of people.
So it was fun because I think especially if we like look at whether it be liberals or just like people who are so wanton for a different style and time of like how society worked, or yeah,
They wish that
conservatives,
America could be great again,
again,
like it was, you know?
like the founding fathers, like where if you get stabbed or you get sick, you probably just die. And that's, I think,
Infant
watching this.
mortality was right around 50%, give or take, you
Ah,
know,
the good old days, the good old days. Glad you had 8 kids so you could have four.
reach adulthood, baby.
Yeah,
And that's not
maybe.
counting the stillbirths and the miscarriages that don't count towards your 8 in the first place.
And it's not counting Bryce Dallas being blind and who's going to marry her. Ugh, there's a lot of those questions. Or Joaquin Phoenix kind of being on the spectrum. Dude's a little
Yeah.
introverted on the spectrum. He doesn't like the other girls coming up and offering themselves. Poor, Judy Greer offering herself and saying, our love is meant for all this. And he's like, I'm going to stick to the blind girl and my shop. And you're like, okay, the man has a little,
No way he had autism because there weren't any of those back
he wasn't
then,
even taking
right?
Tylenol. You're right. So there's
No.
absolutely no way. Either way, it was a
Golly, what
fun
a movie.
watch to be like
Did your significant other see through the twist at the end as we led up to it? Or was she at least a little bit shocked on first watch?
a little bit shocked on first watch. Last year we did Unbreakable Split, Glass. We watched The Village, and I
Wow.
said, now let's watch Signs. And
Yes.
then I think she's seen Sixth Sense. She remembers the big twist, but not the rest of what happens in the movie. So
And how you get to the twist. I mentioned it on this podcast last year, but I got to watch with my significant other The Sixth Sense with someone that who had never seen it and also didn't get the pop culture osmosis that Bruce Willis is dead at the end of The Sixth Sense. People just in 2025, you'd think if you went up to someone and said, "What do you know about The Sixth Sense?" All they know is the twist. They don't even know what it's about or anything else. But she had escaped that, and she was mind blown. She freaking loved it.
I
And
went to
it's a good. It's also a good movie. You
it's
know.
a good movie. And it's well shot. I went to a comedy show 2 nights ago, and someone on stage made a joke about, oh yeah, I feel a little like Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense. We're all dead. And no one said anything. And they were like, ah, it's okay. Oh, I haven't watched it much either. And it's like, wait, what?
What?
It went over so horribly. And I think it was just a joke. But everyone was around my age. I'm like, we almost know this movie, right? But
Yes.
maybe not.
Or just exist in the culture. You know.
Yeah.
You don't have to know it. Just
Exactly.
participate in society, my guys.
Well,
Don't just stock up in the village and hide away.
that's a perfect segue into you participating in this year's society. You watched War of the Worlds 2025.
Hey, that's where we left off last week. Last Friday.
And talk to me about this participation.
It was as bad as everyone makes it out to be.
Yeah.
I don't have a hot take here. It's
Nope.
terrible.
It's sitting at a nice 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if that's up or down, but
That is up from 0. It debuted at 0.
Woof.
And so I was excited to get into it. You know, that piques the interest for the
Yeah.
morbid curiosity and just watching it so bad that the problem with and I enjoy a lot of horror movies, and a lot of horror movies are pretty objectively bad filmmaking. And so I have an ability to get into something that's either so bad it's good, or also like find some value in something that most people just think is bad, you know, and I can have a little bit of fun in it. And I normally find that by getting into something that someone along the creative process, at least one human being, had a little bit of passion for, right? Even if it's a terrible movie, if there's like a cool blood squick at some point, like, oh, the guy doing costuming or the guy doing special effects wants to make it in this industry and he was given it his all. I'm here for you, my man. There's not that is a soulless freaking shell of a should not be enjoyed kind of movie that Amazon has just presented to us as a packaging for more Amazon product placement and enforcing their stature in the world. And it is just a bad thing.
Which again, this was a Universal movie to start. So Universal was going to
Was Universal the distribution for the '05, like Tom Cruise War of the Worlds?
Yeah, I think
That
so.
was good. Like,
Spielberg?
do they have the rights to
I
this? No, that's got to be in the public domain. It's a H.G. Wells, right?
Yeah, I think so. I wish we had that info. It was originally intended for theatrical release by Universal. So they
Oh
were like, we're going to
gosh.
make this. And I think they saw test footage from what I'd read. They saw test footage and were like, Plus the pandemic was starting. They're like, absolutely not. We're good. So they sold it off to Amazon, who then retooled it to make it a prime product placement film, which is why it looks so god awful and is as soulless as it could be.
H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds is in the public domain.
Ah,
It was published in 1897.
which
So
explains why it was so easy to do this one.
anyone could have done it. It felt like a pandemic movie. There's shots at the very, very end where it's like Ice Cube makes it out alive. Spoiler.
Yeah.
We are fine spoiling this because no one should watch it. But so Ice Cube makes it out alive. And there's pictures of him and his little family that they've made it through this adventure with. And I was staring at those stills so hard to try to figure out if they were just photoshopped together because it felt pandemic movie, right? It's the shtick of the screens thing that's Searching and Unfriended and much better movies in the horror adjacent world do.
Yeah.
This one very, very bad. Just, I mean, do you want to go through a list of just bad things about this movie? You
Well, let's
gave me
do
a
it.
little bit beforehand.
I gave you a teaser.
Look, I'm not a CinemaSins guy, right? I think that what they do is bad for movie criticism. But you can't watch this movie and not pick apart all the just how did no one in the editing process notice at the very end they're trying to get into the database.
Yeah.
And they're going back in the footage to see someone else put in their security code, which a camera shouldn't be pointed at where someone's, but that's like,
No.
that's a much lesser sin than the fact that the person putting in the code goes 1-1 and then some other digit. And then when Ice Cube puts in the code, it's a 4-digit code. There are 4 stars on the screen, but the voiceover script had the girl read off 6 numbers, 111983. The person putting in the code did not put in those numbers. Ice Cube only put in 4 numbers and it worked.
It's just, yeah.
The president doesn't have a name. He does all of his stuff from the Oval. All of his Zoom calls are from the Oval Office while there's not a bunker, while the aliens are coming.
Yeah.
Space Force has a
Space
large
Force.
footprint in this movie and is mentioned quite a bit. And just the concept of data. So the monsters or the aliens come, right? It's not germs that kick them out at the end of this, or spoiler alert for people watching Signs in the future. It's not water either. There is no like big weakness that they have, which is the whole point of War of the Worlds, by the way. But they're trying to eat our data. And so we get like little screens of video game health bars of our data going away as they eat it. And slowly planes start crashing and news reports tell us, like, as the passenger plane was going down, I thought, hey, you know what would be a good movie? The story of like a Sully type story about this guy that all of a sudden all the extra nav stuff turns off and he's got to land the plane manually because, all the kids don't do it that way nowadays, but I can because I grew up where we had to fly planes. Like, I kind of do trust pilots to be able to land a plane without data. What is
Data?
like the army is all of a sudden helicopters are going down because all of our Facebook memories are gone. Just such a convoluted. And
so
when it
bad.
got to the Amazon Prime thing, it is so much worse than you described. Like we cannot emphasize
I
how
undersold
poorly
it.
shoehorned in this guy that works for Amazon and his like, no, the Amazon Air drone can save the day. Oh, but you have to put in an actual order before I can like send the drone out. So let's go to Amazon.com and order a 998 USB flash drive. That, a flash drive for 998 is going to be less than a terabyte. We're taking down the aliens, these sophisticated things with a Trojan horse that's going to fit on a $10 flash drive. Again, those are small criticisms considering the just giant blaring problems with this movie. It started off, Ice Cube's so intent on talking about how like oversight is really good that I genuinely didn't think we would get around to the point of the movie being that, spying on the American people is a bad thing, because he was his job is he's apparently the only person that works in the entirety of the FBI or NSA or whatever his thing is, and he
Yeah.
can accomplish it all while also just spying on his children. But the arguments he was having with his son didn't seem like they were foreshadowing anything else. It just like seemed like he was genuinely, and maybe his character was supposed to, but I really did think that the biggest tech company in the world with all of our data was making an argument that it's a good thing that everyone is looking over our shoulder and has all of our data. And then we do get around to the big tech company Amazon telling us that they shouldn't have our data, which maybe is also a bad thing. Like, kudos for that making it through the creative process, but Amazon gave us a movie that tells us that Amazon is bad, even though Amazon saved the day. Wow, just something else.
Directed by Rich Lee. The producer, Timur Bekmambetov, is this Russian fella,
Kudos.
known for working on Wanted 2008 with Angelina Jolie, as well
Curve the
as we
bullet.
talked Curve the Bullet. We talked about Searching and Profile. At first, I was like, is this propaganda that Amazon accidentally bought? But I don't think it is. It's just bad.
Yeah, we do get around at the
Just
very end
bad.
to that, like, his son was right.
Yeah.
We should be pushing against Big Brother looking over our shoulder. But for a lot of this movie, that doesn't seem like where we're going.
Nope. I mean, because also, how do I? A lot of black culture and I guess you'd say like in not only internet culture, but also just kind of like cultural mores or stories told in black culture is like the man's out to get you, the white man's out to get you. Don't trust anything. I
Right.
dated a girl that like only would have Androids and no social media and turned off location and all stuff. Wouldn't use maps, and I was
See,
like,
that's the
interesting.
SNL Black Jeopardy bit where the Venn
Yes.
diagrams of black culture and the Venn diagrams of really MAGA redneck culture
It's
overlap, because where I come from in white America, that's
Yeah.
98% just Trump voters. We also think that Big Brother's out to get you and you can't trust anything.
And that's where I was like, are they just playing on this stereotype and cultural thing? And like, is this going to be a Amazon to Tubi movie where like African American audiences really relate and love it? And oh my gosh.
No,
But I don't think so. I was like, this is
I
just
hope
poorly
not.
written and poorly done. Like, what a weird choice. It just, I mean, Eva Longoria was attached in October of 2020, Ice Cube September 2020. When she got on board, she's also like a huge producer. She's produced tons of movies and funds all kinds of stuff. As soon as she got produced, Deadline was like, she kicked everyone into gear and they went right into shooting right afterwards. But they only shot for 15 days and then
That's all they
spent 2
needed
years
during
on
COVID, by the way,
during COVID.
because
15
it's
days
everyone
during
just get in
COVID.
front of your computer, use Clark Gregg. So Agent Coulson, literally, it looked like it was a computer camera that he was using, and it glitched
Yeah.
out a couple times. And it didn't look like that was supposed to happen in the context of the movie that we're making.
It was just as bad FaceTime camera. Yep. I mean, how much did you love Ice Cube's line readings, though? A consummate professional.
I know that he's a good actor. I have seen Ice Cube perform good things. My personal favorite Ice Cube thing is he's the narrator. So he can read, right? He's the narrator on a 30 for 30 doc about the LA Raiders.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
he's a
That's
big Raiders
right.
fan.
Yeah.
Um,
The man can do line readings.
he can do line readings.
This was just buying, I don't even know what, his lake house in California. Who knows what?
Golly, that's
kids
the
to
take we
college.
took. Like that's a lot of the Gal Gadot criticism of, that's the best one we got for Ice Cube here. Yeah, I guess we only shot for 15 days, but he didn't give you anything else, guys. The editors, were you trying to make my man look bad?
I'm like, is Rich Lee out here just doing Clint Eastwood? Like, give me 2 takes, we're moving. I have no idea, but it sounded like it. It sounded like the practice take every time.
Yeah.
So
First time he's seen those words. Again, sound all right.
the aliens are it just okay. Well, I'm glad you watched it. Now it's done.
I'm not sure I am. No one else
Okay,
needs
well-
to. I will end up recommending 30 out of 31 of my movies that I watched this October. This one I cannot.
We won't link this in the show notes for all of your good.
But if you're curious, it is very obviously available on Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime. Woof. Let's move on. So then you move on to
The Crazies,
Crazies. Now, the original or the remake?
the remake, 2010. So the original is a George A. Romero thing. I'm a
Oh
Western
yeah.
Pennsylvania man. We talk about M. Night Shyamalan as we started off. He's Eastern Pennsylvania, right? The Village,
Hmm.
every single movie happens in or around Philadelphia.
Yeah.
George A. Romero, every single movie happens in or around Pittsburgh. But this is the remake, and so we stick it in some cornfield in Iowa. They don't stay true to the plot here. But this is a zombie adjacent movie where the
Okay.
government, a connection, War of the Worlds, the government has crashed a plane in this farming community and it falls into the water supply, and in it is a bio weapon that makes
Oh,
people crazy.
okay.
They're not really fast zombies either. It's like I said, it's zombie adjacent. They feel like they could be zombies, but it's more they've been infected with like a rage virus, like 28 Days Later, also kind of fast
Wonderful.
zombies sort of thing. Also, Romero did the original. He's the reason we have zombies in the world.
Yep.
So, sort of a zombie movie. It's pretty good. Timothy Oliphant is our main guy. It made me think as I was watching this, do we have a word for handsome character actors? Because character actors, when you say that, it's normally guys that just blend into the crowd, but they're in a bunch of TV stuff or whatever. Timothy Oliphant has never really headlined his own thing, but
Yeah,
he
you're
just
right.
kind of shows up in The Office. He's in a couple episodes as the handsome guy. He's a character actor, but his shtick is that he's handsome instead of being whatever else character actors normally are. Anyway, that's so Timothy
Yeah.
Oliphant is our lead in this horror movie, and he's in a couple other horror movies, and that's another thing that character actors kind of do.
I was just Googling, everyone's like, we just call them handsome character actors or beautiful character actors.
Sure,
Because you're
it's
right, he kind
just
of
so
steals the
weird.
scene with his looks,
Uh
but
huh.
also blends into the story and can do whatever. Interesting. I mean, he's such a Western guy. Does he do well in a horror?
Yeah, so he's the
Okay.
sheriff of a small town
Oh,
in Iowa.
okay.
There you
Yep.
go. Um, the opening scene is at a baseball game, which this town there's someone watching. The government is keeping
Okay.
tabs on what's going down in this town, and then they eventually come in and shut things down. But they throw up the stats of this town, and it says it's a population of 1,200 people, which is so very small. A town that has actually 1,200 people. I don't know if you've ever been to. I don't know if you've left LA enough, Tristan.
I spent
Have
time
you
in
been in
Toronto.
LA so
I was in
long
Toronto.
that if
We
you
go
have
to smaller
1,200
towns.
people, you
Yeah.
don't have enough humans to field a couple baseball teams. There's a baseball game going on at the
Yeah.
beginning of this
How?
movie, and I don't know if it's high school or junior college. Like these
Yeah.
look like 20-year-old men just playing a little baseball scrimmage, but they all have matching uniforms, so it's not a like rec league softball game. Anyway, whatever. Opening scene happens in a baseball game. A little bit Quiet Place Part Two, right?
Okay.
When we get
Yeah.
the day that the Quiet Place starts happening,
Hmm.
it's at a baseball game. So Quiet Place happens after Crazies. They pull a little bit from that, or the animated Chicken Little movie from
Oh, that's
Disney.
right. Oh my
What?
gosh. Yeah. Okay.
Baseball looks good on film, man. Anyway,
Yep.
so opening scene happens in a baseball game. One guy just kind of struts out onto the field, and for the first time in the history of movies, the cop ends up shooting a civilian, and it is justified
Wow.
because the guy was crazy. But then
Yeah.
they check his blood alcohol level. He wasn't actually drunk, but he was acting drunk, right? And he's the town drunk, but he got sober. But turns out just this crazy stuff. The bioweapon got into the water supply, and if you get into the water supply of a Iowa town that's a farming town,
Yeah.
all of a sudden that crazy is potential to get out in the food supply and infect the rest of the world. And so small town sheriff, eventually like the government comes in, they, test your temperature. Oh, you might be a crazy. So we're going to sequester you off over here. If you're not, we're going to get you out of Dodge. He has to go back because he and his wife are separated. So, she's just pregnant and she's been running a fever for a while. She's not crazy. So he's got to go get her. And then they go on a little adventure going through the abandoned town and fighting the crazies that they see along the way.
It's not about just being crazy, it's the crazies you meet along the way.
Aw.
That's what it's all about. It's interesting to me because reading the plot of this, once you told me you'd watched it, I was like, oh, I wonder how inspired the first one was on nuclear testing in America. I mean, because honestly, it sounds obviously like
The
close enough to be
poster,
similar.
in the 1970s when you come in with hazmat suits, it's
Yeah.
got that nuclear feel to it. It just in a way that we don't visually see the vibes nowadays when the government comes in. Even so, this in Arrival, right, where
Yeah.
they're all kind of working off things. And by the way, Arrival, there's a lot of scenes in War of the Worlds that made me
Hmm.
think, man, I wish I was watching Arrival.
Yeah.
That is good at this, and this is very, very
Yeah.
bad at this. But in Arrival, they just do a good job plopping you in there and even making all of the makeshift government operations just look good.
Yeah.
In the Crazies, it's not quite at that level, but
Okay.
and yet,
And
but the '70s version, they lean hard into that stuff.
I mean, because I know about like, there's a great documentary we screened for the mag years ago about how the government put open uranium containers in black projects in St. Louis just to see what happened. Of like, it leaked into the water. It was around like when they're walking on the streets,
Yeah.
just uranium, just to see what happened to them. And I was like, oh, is the crazies like directly talking about that? I don't know. Does it feel like this movie has like a moral ending of like, here's the lesson we learned, or was it more like we survived?
I mean, the government was the bad guys, right? It's very also The Stand by Stephen King,
Yeah.
and whatever adaptation you want to watch of it starts off like this, where the government is just playing with things that they ought not to,
Yeah.
and if it gets out, and we wouldn't have a movie if it didn't, but when it gets out, then something starts happening, and so just because your scientists could doesn't mean that they should.
Yeah.
Is
Jurassic
usually the
Park.
lesson of this kind of thing. Real quality idiot mayor that we get in a couple scenes.
We
We don't
love
get
that.
enough of them. Like very Jaws-esque, where he's just this again small population of 1,200 Iowa town, and
Yeah.
he's got a pool, and he's just a big
Portly bastard.
shit-eating grin. Yeah, just it's fine, sheriff. You don't know what you're talking about. We can't shut down the water supply, and then they don't. Then he goes and shuts down the water supply anyway, but it was too late. And there's a lot of crazies. It is very horror coded. It was missing a little grit and grime for me. Like this,
Okay.
it is a really good movie, but there's a scene where the lights are flashing and it's kind of early on, one of the first real interactions. He's in the autopsy room in the morgue, and one of the crazies has the buzz saw that you use to like cut open a person's body for an
Yep.
autopsy. And there's horror movies that like lean on that crazy physician kind of feel.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't really get scary. It's just missing something, right? It's a little too
Interesting.
glossy, a little too pretty. Maybe Timothy Oliphant is too pretty for the role as a lead, whatever it is. Like there was something missing, especially in that scene, because that felt the place where we were the most going to get into, okay, it's horror now. And it kind of felt more like video game horror than real movie making horror, but still a really good movie.
Which it felt like, at least to me as a casual trailer observer, a lot of like the late 2000s into 10s were kind of building off of like, we have scary video games, we have Left 4 Dead, here you go, here's
Yeah.
video game as a movie.
It was also the time when we were remaking every single classic slasher, and they all do have a similar, more action. Again, like World War Z comes out, and the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which is Dawn of the Dead, originally a Romero and a great horror movie. They all kind of just feel a little glossier and more action than the horror that they get to. And by the way, I've got a 2000s remake of a great classic horror movie coming up this week that we'll talk to, but not the next day, not after the Crazies.
Not the next day. So from the crazies, you go back in time. You needed a palate cleanser.
Universal Monsters. I do one of these every year, and this year it's
Yeah.
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, baby. What year was this? 1950s? 40s?
1954.
1954.
Best creature design of any of the Universal monsters. Like Frankenstein is the best top to bottom movie. Invisible Man is a personal favorite of mine, where I think it's got the best, like the most translatable acting. Not everyone's in that transatlantic accent of the 1950s that Hollywood felt like we were doing. Like, I think Invisible Man is most palatable nowadays. The Mummy was one of my entry points to horror in general. I've got a soft spot for that. Dracula is Dracula, and so it's very good. Creature from the Black Lagoon, best creature design by far. The costuming and the makeup, the people that worked on this movie can hang their hats on that forever. The Gill Man, the creature, just looks fantastic. And the filmmaking of this, probably the hardest undertaking of any of those, because it's a lot of really beautifully shot underwater swimming scenes where the guy in the suit had to be a really professional swimmer, and he was, to make it look good, and they do it.
And this is again like 1950s, 1954. to be children of the 90s and in school and still seeing this imagery and this suit, whether it be like Halloween things or on
Yep.
like party favors or coloring books or commercials or spoofs, whatever, is wild that it held on that long. It still does. I mean,
Hmm.
they're remaking it. James Wan, I think, has the remake under his
I mean,
stewardship.
it's going to be one of the. We just got another Wolfman, and
Yeah.
so when we got the Invisible Man in 2020, it felt like we were going to have a better Dark Universe. So right, Mummy with
Yeah.
Tom Cruise comes out in 17ish. It's
Oof.
so bad they cancel the Dark Universe. Mummy in 2020 is good enough that they're like, hey, maybe we should do a Dark Universe. Then
Yeah.
COVID slows everything down. Then Wolfman this year is maybe so bad that we're gonna not go ahead with Dark
We're just
Universe
gonna keep
again.
doing solos and see what happens.
No boy.
Yep. Oh man.
All of the Universal monsters, though, in these classics are unbelievably horny. It is always just they are going after the pretty blonde in the cast for no discernible reason, like other than the fact that that's the pretty blonde in the cast. And they
Yep.
just, that's what the monster's aim is. And, the men making the movie obviously is the analogy for just like they're coming for our women fear, which the creature never does anything particularly horrifying,
Yeah.
other than swimming really well and being a creature, but except that he's like, I mean, he claws some guys. It's very much like the Wolfman, which I watched last year.
Okay.
The Wolfman is a wolf. He's got teeth. He's always strangling people in the movie. Like it's just some guy in a wolf suit, and we know that. And like
It's
it was the
logistics.
50s, but he never claws anyone or bites anyone. So this creature, we don't know like what cool like ways of torture and mutilation that he has because he's undiscovered in the Amazon for millions of years. He's mostly just like grabbing people, picking up the women, taking them.
Unimaginative, you know?
But it was the 50s. It's whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
looking at his design, I'm like, how did they? I don't even know what it's made of. I'm guessing like rubber, foam, I
Big
don't
rubber
know,
suit.
whatever, plastic.
Hmm.
How is it not just deteriorating and falling apart with all the time in the water,
In water.
plus
Yeah.
choking?
Yeah.
Okay, so
They did.
for that age,
I'm pretty sure they used the same scene of a hand coming out of the water and then that music sting, the da na na, da na
uh-huh.
na. It gets pretty repetitive. They hammered home that leitmotif, but the hand comes out of the water and it looked very it I think it was just the same exact scene that they
Let's
just
just
spliced
reuse
to a
it.
different
Yep.
place. Um Anyway, but as we're like slowly introduced to the creature, they do suspense building very well. And again, for the 1950s,
Yep.
this is a very good one, and it's a good movie to look at. They do all kinds of filmmaking stuff in this that not all of the Universal monster movies were doing.
Does it make you want to watch the sequels? Because there are sequels, right?
Yeah, I'm always interested, and I have seen the Bride of Frankenstein. It shouldn't even
Yeah.
count as a sequel. That should be standalone and seen as one of the great Universal monster movies. But this,
Yeah.
especially when he was swimming around and it's set in the Amazon, it made me feel like whenever I was growing up watching Turner Classic Movies, there's a lot of Tarzan movies that probably no
Hmm.
one of our age has seen, but they were just churning them out every year, like Robin Hood and some of those other just characters that we'd make movies of every so often. So like Universal monster movies also got a lot of sequels, and none of them are particularly good. And we watched the originals because they were a little bit better.
Gotcha. I was going to say on that note, I just got tickets to Bride of Frankenstein at one of the small little LA theaters. It's like part of like the film club thing.
Right on.
And Guillermo del Toro's putting it on. He's doing a whole week of horror in LA where he
Well,
shows up to talk about it. So
so we would be remiss talking about the creature from the Black Lagoon to not mention Guillermo del Toro in The Shape of Water and
his
the
creature.
the way that the creature has survived in pop culture now thanks to an Oscar award winning
Yeah.
film and that take on it. And Guillermo del Toro is giving us in November. Come on, guys, come on, release it in October, but
Right.
they're giving us a Frankenstein movie this year.
They're more worried about Oscars than they are about the horror fans, which is annoying.
1 week earlier, it's still in the culture at the end of the
Yeah.
year when it's Oscar baity, and I can watch it in October.
Come on.
But
Come on. Well, Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. A hit. A hit?
a hit.
A hit. Now you go back to the more modern throwback.
The remake of Friday the 13th in 2009. This was one of the later remakes throughout the 2000s when we were teenagers. I don't know how I survived as a horror fan. I've said this before, but
Yeah.
we grew up in the worst time for horror,
Rough
where
times.
we were just making bad remakes of the originals that are good. So of the 13th of the month, every single year for the past 11, I think I am at years
Mhm.
of doing this marathon, I watch the next in the line of the Friday the 13th. This is the last Friday the 13th that they made. So we got up
Wow.
through Jason X, which that was the 10. That was Jason Goes to Space, basically, which was last year with
Yeah.
Uber Jason, Mechanical Jason, whatever.
Yeah.
The 11th in the franchise, not counting Jason and Jason Meets Freddy, Freddy versus Jason, whatever. The last in the franchise was the remake that they made in 2009 after Halloween had gotten remade, after Nightmare on Elm Street had gotten remade, and Prom Night, and just like a million other 80s slashers. But Friday the 13th gets around to their remake in 2009. And look, Friday the 13th is not a franchise that holds a specific place in my heart. I know that it's like one of the iconic franchises, but so many of those movies are just interchangeable. If I had
Yeah.
to make a ranked
Yeah.
list, none of them are special. My personal favorite is the fourth one, called The Final Friday. They made 7 more after the fourth, like
Not so
not the
final.
Final Friday by far, but
Yep.
I don't know. Friday the 13th is a good franchise. So if you're going to do a remake, you actually have an opportunity here where, unlike Nightmare on Elm Street, where Freddy is just, he's got good movies and he's hilarious and it's cool, or unlike Halloween, where that movie is held up, the first one, as one of the great movies that might cross genres a little bit and that even non-horror fans consider, hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, you've got some room. Like, you could make the best Friday the 13th movie without a lot of effort,
You can do it.
but they didn't in 2009. It is a Michael Bay produced film, and as we're setting up all the horny teenagers, it feels like a Michael Bay dialogue film. He's throwing in product placement. They're not just drinking like nameless beer. They're drinking specifically Pabst Blue Ribbon. They're,
Wonderful.
the girls are taking their tops off at every opportunity, and just, I mean, that's what Friday the 13th is all about, but also this leaned more into it than I think I remember.
Yeah. Are you happy to restart next year with the first one?
So I
Or
am not going to. I have seen
okay.
all the Friday the
Okay.
13th like recently now in the course of this marathon.
Yeah.
And so later, this is a tease for next week, I'm going to be watching the first Freddy movie now. So I've gotten through Jason.
Oh,
Now I'm going to
okay,
do Nightmare
yeah.
on Elm Street, starting with the first one, and work through that. It's a shorter. So I started with Halloween and Friday the 13th specifically because they were the longest standing and they've got, just the kills. And I think they
Yeah.
stand a tier above. Now, this year, I'm starting my marathons with Saw. We talked about that on a previous episode.
Yep.
You can go back and listen to at any, wherever you get your podcasts. And then in a future episode, I'm going to be watching this year the first Nightmare on Elm Street and make that a recurring theme every single year where I watch one next one in the series.
Okay, that'll be fun. Yeah. You had Jason, you're going to Freddy. All right. So a good way to wrap it up this year, middle of the month, early in the month. Yeah, not the very end, not the capstone, capstone, yeah.
They really, the coolest thing that this movie does is that if you're going to remake Friday the 13th, the weird thing is that just quirks of the Friday the 13th franchise that people that haven't actually watched it and just kind of know about Jason from the pop culture don't know is that the first one, Jason is not your killer. It's Jason's mom. It's very much a
right.
psycho riff where the mom is just mad at all the camp counselors because they let her son Jason, they were negligent. Well, I mean, not those camp counselors even specifically, but just camp counselors as a concept had let her son drown in the Crystal Lake at Camp Crystal Lake. And so she was mad at teenagers for not doing their due diligence. And so she goes on a killing spree and she's haunted by the voices of Jason. And then Jason comes back as a zombie at the very end of that. And then it's sort of zombie Jason or just like wet, drowned Jason, whatever, in the next few movies. But in Friday the 13th Part 2, he's just wearing a bag over his head. Like the Time the Dreaded Sundowns bad guy. And then it's in Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D that he finally puts on a hockey mask for the first time. So if you picture Jason with a machete and a hockey mask, he doesn't really get there until partway through the third movie. So if you're doing a remake,
Yeah.
you need to have actual Jason with a hockey mask, though. And so, in a really inspired move, this movie uses our credits, opening credits, where it goes like, it shows a little clip and then it's, a black screen with a name on it, like
Yeah.
starring Jared Padalecki, and then a little clip and then, another name on it. Produced by Michael Bay. They're telling the story, they're filling us in that these murders had happened, right? They're telling the story basically of the first movie in the pre-roll. And then
Okay.
we get Jason killing a group of like 5 teenagers or 20s or whatever you want to call them, just horny kids, before the title card comes up and it's Friday the 13th. And then we get another group of kids that are coming to Crystal Lake. And then Jason kills all of those. A lot of kills in the movie.
A
If
lot
you're
of
just in
kills,
it
yeah.
for seeing the body count, we get there in
Yeah.
2009. I would like the one little tweak I would have done here was I would have had him pick up the hockey mask and get it from the first group of teens. And so right before we do a splash and cut to Friday the 13th, the title card, have him put on the mask for the first time because he is just kind of wearing a bag on his head for the first group of kills. And then it's like halfway through the second group of kills that he finds a hockey mask in just a shed and he puts it on. And it's kind of an anticlimactic moment for the most iconic thing about your character.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, just seeing the covers of all these VHSs at Blockbuster as a kid, they were horrifying.
yeah,
Jason Goes to Hell, terrifying. Even
yeah,
Jason X with like the crazy like space titanium was scary.
yeah.
So it's funny to hear, yeah, there's been so many iterations and they still
He
haven't
went to
done it
Manhattan,
perfectly
he went to
great.
hell, he went to space, and then in 2009 he was just back at Camp Crystal Lake. That's where he belongs.
Come on back
They do
home.
a lot of little like drop-ins, right? Like I said, the opening credits, very good references to the original movies. There's a shot that they pull right from the original Texas Chainsaw where we're kind of introducing the teenagers by pulling the camera back through the car and seeing them all. It's
Fun.
it's not as good as the original, but
Yeah.
you can tell that the people that made this movie do kind of like horror movies. One of the kills is reminiscent of one of the most iconic kills in the whole franchise that they referenced in Jason X also, where it's a girl in a sleeping bag dangling from a tree, like they do some of this stuff. There's a little bit of love put into this just kind of raunchy, dumb, scratches an itch of killing kids movie.
Well, you enjoyed it enough, but yeah,
Yeah.
not your favorite from the series. You said number four is your favorite. The final
Number four
chapter.
is my favorite. Final
Okay.
Friday.
Final Friday, thank
And
you.
then probably number three, it's weird to watch a very made for 3D movie on a not 3D screen because
Yeah.
there's an eyeball that just pops in like forward in the screen, or there's a yo-yo that just goes forward you can tell they're just playing with the technology in the 1980s.
Yeah.
But it's pretty. Jason gets his mask and it's got some good kills.
Friday the 13th, 2009.
Yeah.
Now, your next one, you take a little turn in both horror and tone and recency.
And genre.
2025.
Yeah.
And genre.
The Thursday Murder Club. Let's pretend that this happened on Thursday. I didn't prepare well here. I could have just like watched it on a Thursday. I wasn't, but I didn't. I watched it on a Tuesday, I think.
Okay.
The Thursday Murder Club, a 2025 release on Netflix right now.
Yep.
Holy moly, great cast. Started off so strong. I'm like, these old people are still just like slinging fastballs. We're doing good stuff, and it's based so horror adjacent is my theme for this marathon. If I'm going to watch 31 movies, I don't need them all to be very typical slashers, gross you out, crazy stuff
Yeah.
for all 31 days, right? I think murder mysteries belong next to this genre, and especially the way that like Hound of the Baskervilles and the original Hammer productions of some Sherlock Holmes stuff, you're going after murderers. And then I've even mentioned Saw, Seven, Silence of the Lambs. Some of these more gritty thrillers are also just like cop dramas trying to catch a killer. They're like whodunits as well.
Yeah.
So, a movie that's based on a whodunit kind of book, it fits a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Where there's a murder, and we're trying to catch him. And so Helen Mirren and Pierce Brosnan and Ben Kingsley are in a retirement home, and they start up the Thursday Murder Club, where they try to solve cold cases in the town. And they are surprised when a new case comes to them, and they have to use their detective skills to solve it. And it did start off really fun and really strong. And by the end of it, I was just waiting to find out when the new Knives Out was going to come out because That's better.
Yeah.
Also, Kadri and I, my wife, have watched a lot of other like murder mysteries and based on books
Hmm.
adaptations that go to Netflix. And because they want all the content that they get, oftentimes these are bloated into longer series than they
Yep.
needed to be. The Residence, I really enjoyed the first few episodes, and it's a murder mystery that happens in the White House. The
Oh
Residence.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought it was doing some really exciting things. It leans a lot on Knives Out, where, one quirky, very identifiable detective is bringing their bravado into a case and just, making everyone acknowledge that they're the greatest.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmesy, right? Very, very good. But that went on for too many episodes. So having just been fresh off watching The Residence and then watching Thursday Murder Club, we were about an hour in to this, I think, less than 2 hour movie. And it was paced still about the way that a first episode of a
Oh
10 episode series was going to be. And we
yeah.
needed to get the murder, solve the murder, and wrap up in the next just hour now. And
A little quick.
you can tell it's a longer book that they had to adapt, and it's yes. I grew up watching Columbo, and an hour and a half, hour 45 or whatever. That is a sweet spot for being able to solve a crime,
Yeah.
and this one felt a little bit poorly placed, and maybe that was on me for coming into it having watched it, a show that was poorly placed in the wrong direction, where there were too many episodes of The Residence, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for Knives Out to see again, just, a nice little murder mystery solved in a couple hours. Yeah, there was just something a little bit off about the Thursday Murder Club.
It's funny because especially it being like British adjacent, set in Britain, whatever else, you
Hmm.
would expect it to be more British of like 4 to 6 episodes, you know, like they
Yeah.
do all their British TV. But because it was Netflix, they're like, oh, making a movie. Interesting decision. I think I got 45 minutes, maybe an hour in, and I was like, I am a little bored. I'm gonna come back to this another day when I'm feeling it. So it's like been
Yeah.
on my watch list to finish. But while we've been talking, I did pull up the production companies because I was like, how British is this? It's not as British as I thought it was. And also, they're gonna definitely make sequels because they created their own production company called Thursday Productions. So wonderful. Whatever.
Okay. There's more books that they can pull from, so
Yeah.
whatever.
And it was directed by Chris Columbus, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of fun. Harry Potter, Chris Columbus, The Help, Chris Columbus.
Home Alone, Chris Columbus.
Humble Home Alone, Chris Columbus, thank you. I was looking at some of the other production companies. One of them worked on The Way Back, that 2020 drunk Ben Affleck movie that was probably too accurate to his life.
Not the way back.
No,
The
no,
way back. Very
just
different.
The Way Back.
Gotcha.
And then also Voyage Pictures was one of the producers slash distributors who did Nosferatu and Werewolf
Hey.
and a lot of other funny, interesting movies like Patty Cakes from 2017. Remember that came out? Anyways, a lot of weird companies, including Amblin Entertainment. So, of everyone to get in on it, this was
Spielberg
just,
also has thrown his hat into the ring.
you know, there's enough stars for someone else to get involved, but all shot in the UK, kind of fun there. A lot of it, like the ice rink, was shot like right next to the town where I went to college when I went to
Hey.
master's degree.
Hmm.
Just small towny, comfy, great British Bake Off murder mystery, kind of.
Yeah. If that is your vibe of, and whether you've read the book or not, a lot of times I bring these kind of movies into my marathon because my wife has read the book. This
Yeah.
one we watched the movie to see if it would pique her interest to eventually read the book because she's a big reader,
Hmm.
and it didn't, but maybe she will anyway. She reads a lot of stuff, so when she's in a lull, maybe we'll just break it out anyway.
Well, now I want to know. You have to ask her. I mean, she must read, or maybe reads, the Harlan Coben books, which Netflix is just producing wholesale.
Yes.
Missing You and every other show on there. I mean, yeah.
Yep, yep,
Anyways,
yep, yep. And
okay.
so just last year, I've also convinced her to read for my horror marathon. Last year,
Mhm.
she read Gone Girl and she read
Oh,
also Rebecca, which
oh, yikes.
is made into those are two different vibes, but
Yeah.
also they're also similar in theme. But anyway, so she'll read all kinds of stuff. And then
She's got
also,
the
yeah,
literary
we'll go
side.
and watch. She also just reads like the normal rom-coms, and so we'll go
Yeah,
watch Where the Crawdads Sing when that movie, like,
fun.
we've seen those things too.
Yeah. Well, there's probably not a book for your next movie.
Nah, Splinter 2008,
Splinter.
directed by Toby Wilkins. Also in the opening credits, creature concept by the George K. Wood and Toby Wilkins. So this director just had an idea for a cool zombie-ish kind of dude and made a whole movie about it. And it's really good. This is the kind of just small, compact horror movie that fills in the roster of this 31 Days really well. There's 6 people in the whole cast, no extras, one set. It's just a gas station in the middle of nowhere. And we spend a little bit of time driving to it, but mostly we're just at a gas station where this Splinter, and it's kind of set up by our main nerd character, is studies like plants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's talking about how old this forest is and how everything's connected by the root system down under. And so there's this Splinter creature that is not so much sentient as it is a plant that's just trying to expand its root system, but it expands to take over people. So people get a little splinter in your finger or wherever else, and eventually that splinter grows like a fungus all over your body and takes over your body and wants to use your body to get to another warm body to spread that splinter to the next victim. And so you get what is essentially a zombie moving around and trying to get and infect the next. And it's really good.
So fans of The Last of Us can see some similarities here,
Yes.
obviously.
This comes out in 2008, which was maybe slightly after the first Last of Us, definitely before the second. No, I think it would have been before the first video game, certainly. And then, of course,
2013 was the first one,
Yeah.
Well,
So this was a very unique concept at the time. And I just came to it. This is the first watch for me. I thought it was very enjoyable.
well, it's got my favorite character actor of the last 10 years, Shea Wiggum. I am a Shea Wiggum stan. And so, of course, looking at this movie and the poster, I was like, wait, is that my boy? He looks so baby-faced.
When I was doing some half-hearted internet research on this, there's all kinds of reports about they didn't really even give him a script. They just let him freelance and be guy with gun and skeptical about the whole situation and said, just kind of do your thing, Shay. And
Wonderful.
he did.
And he did.
He is the standout. The main nerd character that I said, I recognized him from the Animorphs TV show on Nickelodeon from the early 2000s.
Wow.
He hasn't been in much else other than that and this, but I recognized him. And they invent, so in Walking Dead, I think in the first 1 or 2 episodes, they do a thing about how to be invisible to the zombies, where you cover yourself in their blood because zombies can smell things. So whatever of your 5 senses that zombies use to find their next victim, you can usually, every movie or TV show does a different way to be invisible to zombies. Here, because they're plants, they hide in the freezer section of this convenience store so that the plant can't sense their heat. They lower their body temperature.
Okay.
And so when they need to get across the gas station parking lot to get the keys, they actually just cover this person in ice and try to lower their body temperature to a point less than the ambient temperature around on this hot summer day, but more than, what would kill you or whatever. So we're supposed to be 98.6. 80 something, 70 something will kill you. You'll go brain dead. But at the time, the temperature, that they say in this, they got a thermostat in the gas station is something like 95 or whatever. So you just got to lower the body temperature and you can walk invisible to the Splinter creature. And that was really fun. Like there's some imagination here. After watching a few kind of just pretty paint by numbers movies, this one was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I was trying to find budget numbers, and they seem to be a little bit elusive. But what I saw was
got to be pretty low.
$14,000 was the ticket.
Oh,
14 grand, which is
that's
the
quite
tiniest of tiny budgets, if that's true. And you never know. Like, it was a 14,000 of the director's money.
What did you pay Shea Wiggum then to show up in your movie with 14?
He was just happy to be there, apparently. But it said it made $500,000 at the box office, so 510,000. On a limited run, and I don't know if these box office numbers they're reporting are strictly from the limited theatrical run or the fact that this movie was put on HDNet Movies 2 days after it came out in theaters and was like a streamable movie.
Ah.
And I'm like, whoa, 2000, what is this, 2008?
That is early for that sort of
Pretty
release
early.
schedule. Yeah. Now it's available on HBO Max, not just out there
HBO
for
Max.
free for on I mean it's probably also
Wonderful.
for free if you want to illegally stream it because that exists for everything, but support this movie. It's a fun little guy.
I hope Jaya and the cast and the director got a little kick from this, HBO sale to have the licensing for the rights for now. But yeah, kind of
Yeah,
wild. Splinter 2008.
that's right. And then finally, yesterday on Thursday, I didn't watch the Thursday Murder Club. I watched H.H. Holmes' America's First Serial Killer. This is a documentary.
A
I've
recent one or
never
an old one?
2004, like a
Okay.
moderate. Devil in the White City keeps getting pushed back and back and back. That's the movie, or maybe now a TV show that Leonardo DiCaprio is tied to making about the real story of H.H. Holmes, who is widely seen as America's first serial killer. He was doing
Oh
things in
wow.
Chicago. He's the guy that gosh, I should have looked this up to do research to talk on a podcast. But there was a movie about like a house that was
Hmm.
built, and that movie was probably about a different house. But H.H. Holmes' Murder House in Chicago is also one of these just like staircases to nowhere, and
Oh
they
wow.
turn you around. Like he can bring people into the house, and they get turned around and they get lost. And so there's a lot of rooms on the interior so that he can do his killing, you know. And so in 11 years, 12 years, I don't know, however long I've been sort of doing this marathon, 11 years really religiously, but even a couple years before that, I was watching horror movies in October. I've never brought out a documentary. And so,
Mm.
because Devil in the White City will eventually probably happen and will watch it in an October, this is kind of the guy. And I did some internet searches, and this is a very well regarded documentary.
Yeah.
I wasn't super impressed. I sat down to watch
Okay.
this also with my wife, and she went to take a shower halfway through because she wasn't really hooked by it either. It felt like something that I would have grown up watching on a Sunday evening on A&E or Biography or the
Yeah.
History Channel, just made for TV that's good and informative, but it has, the expert sitting in a room and it has their little title and their name in the
Yep.
lower third. And it's just really conventionally just a TV informative kind of thing rather than I've seen some documentaries in my movie watching life that
Yeah.
are really well thought out and cool movies as well as being documentaries. This wasn't quite that. It didn't ascend to like a great documentary status, but about a subject matter of serial killers that I have a fascination with that I enjoy watching things about, and in a month of October, and about a guy that I would like to learn more about. This is a good little watch.
And now I'm like, I was just in Chicago for a week. Do I need to go do this tour? Looking at the schematics, like you just mentioned of the house, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary that someone was like, I'm gonna make this. The asphyxiation room. What?
Mm-hmm.
The
Exactly.
dark room, like you said, a stair to nowhere. Ugh, yikes. A chute to the basement. Okay, that's pretty terrifying.
Narrated by the late great Tony J. And he's got this just British deep voice where
Mhm.
he should narrate everything. And his voice acting talents. So he was doing a lot of stuff early in his career as a live action, like just character actor in Great Britain. And then he's in a bunch of Disney movies as a voice in the
Okay.
90s. And he's Clow Frollo in Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, wow.
And then he's also the narrator for a bunch of documentaries at some point too. And it when you tee it up, even just watch the trailer for this movie, and it is his voice, and he should narrate every. He's passed
Yeah.
away now, but I wish he had narrated more. That you get to
Oh my
listen to the
gosh.
way that he delivers these lines. He kept me into it, even though the actual filmmaking of it managed to make a Murder Castle boring at times.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So put it on. Doesn't have to have your full attention, but listen to the voice,
Hmm.
and you'll get informed about some things that you'll probably want to dig in deeper.
Yeah,
H.
piques the
H.
interest.
Holmes.
Hmm.
At first, I was like, is this a prequel to Sherlock? What is H. H. Holmes? No? Okay. This is the guy that did all the Chicago World's Fair murders.
Yes,
We have a mutual friend, you and I. We'll say his first name is Keller. And we did a VR thing in Utah before it was shut
that's
down
right.
and in California.
Uh huh.
And they had made a horror VR game about this H.H. Holmes murder guy, but then also brought in like psychological and like monsters and whatever else. Anyways, we screamed like girls the entire time through the entire VR
I
thing.
forgot that was that H.H. Holmes themed, that little, because it did feel like it was back then.
It
That was
was the
cool.
Chicago World's Fair, and you were trying to
Yeah,
find someone who was murdering, and then they threw in
that's definitely
monsters.
him.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind
Okay.
of fun. It was fun and scary. The Void, poor defunct Void. But yeah, so seeing this, I'm like, ooh, maybe I will turn it on today.
And this time in history is just so fascinating. The
Yeah.
Chicago World's Fair in the 1800s, and then the like the second or third Olympics, like the modern Olympiad that
Wow.
happened, that had to move from Chicago down to St. Louis. The stories around that and the way that we were doing, just the way that people were getting together and the opinions on the world of the 1800s and early 1900s, very fascinating. You're a history major, like this is
Yeah.
not a lot of this is news to you,
It was a
but
wild time.
whew. And yeah, you could just be a serial killer and kill hundreds of people and no one would notice.
Nope.
If you
Nope.
were if you were Jack the Rippering, if you were just killing people on the margins of society that no one
Yep.
would miss, and no one, there wasn't a system to find these people.
I've tried to explain to people before when they're like, oh, the Wild West, or oh, it was a lawless time, or like, oh, it was so different before phones. It's like,
Yeah, kind of.
no, 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 no. You don't understand. Like, people would kill other people and assume identities all the time. Or just like, yeah, move, murder, take a house. You just live here now. Oh, they left a while ago. Okay, they did. Like, that was the end of that.
Yeah.
What? So yeah.
So the lesson from these 7 days is that a lot of Big Brother government looking over your shoulder is bad, but we should have maybe a little, social security cards and driver's licenses should also exist to make sure that our neighbors aren't going missing due to serial killers.
Not a bad plan.
Okay,
Not a
cool.
bad plan. Well, you don't have to tell us because we'll save it for next week, but I know you've got more
Yeah.
coming. Is there any theme or thing you're trying to get through the rest of this month? I know you don't have every day planned out, but something in your mind where you're like, oh, I want to hit this something.
Yeah, I mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street is going to be
Oh, yeah.
coming. Last year I did a whole 7 days of the Alien franchise, and I thought long and hard about doing that for Predator this year, but just not enough of the Predator movies are even close to horror. Alien was already like skirting
Yeah.
the boundaries of that last year, and Predator is much less so. But
Yeah.
there are a couple new Predator movies that are coming out
Yeah.
this year. One I believe is already out. One hasn't come out. But I'm
Badlands.
interested
Yeah.
in those, and so I might queue up like one Predator and one of these modern sequels. Prey was really interesting. Watched that a few years ago,
Yeah, Pro was
but
fun.
no big themes for this year because I think last year doing that 7 days, I want to have a little bit more freedom in my pickings this year. So that's what I'm doing.
That's right. The other one was the animated one, right? Killer of
Yes,
Killers.
there's an animated one for sure in that list.
And then
But also,
Badlands.
so I watched a 2025 release this week. Also watched one last week. Weapons is coming on this list too.
Oh, fun. Okay. Yeah.
I have not seen Weapons yet. I was saving that for October.
I've heard so much about it, so I'm excited to hear what your thoughts are.
And either the day before or the day after I watch Weapons, I'll be revisiting We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is the dark school shooter movie that came out a few years ago with Ezra Miller and
Oh,
I think Tilda
yikes.
Swinton, if I'm remembering
Yeah, Tilda
correctly.
Swinton, yeah.
I've seen that movie once. I remember thinking it was quite a good movie. Enjoy it can't be the word for it, but I thought it was a good movie, and so I think I will be revisiting it this year as well.
Sociopathic teen. Woof. All right. Well, there's some heavy things. Let's wrap it up there for today. Everyone who wants to watch any of the movies we've talked about today, last week, or the first of our episodes in 2025, we've got it all listed in the show notes. Everywhere you can watch it, we'll have linked both renting on VOD and different streaming services. And until next week, watch good movies and TV, especially Halloween and horror movies.